clan loyalty. Okay, so we have there's a lot of discussion going on about clan loyalty in the community right now. And one of the things that you do when you describe the L5R community and L5R as a game is what makes it unique is the idea of clan loyalty as it applies in L5R. So I felt it was probably pertinent to discuss clan loyalty. It's a pretty big focus in the game. It's a pretty big aspect of the L5R community. And for those new players, it's kind of a foreign concept, really. The idea is so and for old players, this is a concept that could be changing somewhat, and so I felt it was really relevant to discuss these kind of things. So, what does it mean? Well, clan loyalty, how I'm defining clan loyalty here, is that it refers to the predisposition to support a clan in the storytelling, gameplay, and in the community. Um, I feel that's a pretty broad and accurate description. But really, what it is it's fanaticism. So when you get an L5R, you pick your clan, right? That's generally the way it's been in the CCG, and it's become a very an element that is a part of it now. The part of the community, part of the game, is picking your faction, supporting your faction. The idea that you generally play that faction. A lot of at the beginning it was the unique thing about the game was the storyline prizes, and that contributed to this evolution, this creation of this core clan loyalty, this culture of clan loyalty that we see in or saw in the CCG. And it was kind of the product of the interactions between the communities and the storyline prizes. They would interact. The storyline prizes would be geared around like what's going to happen to this clan, what's going to happen to this clan. Is this which clan is going to win the overall storyline? That was the big Day of Thunder thing. Is Lion Clan won, and so Kodo Toturi became the emperor. He was the Lion Clan. Although I would protest that he was a Ronin at the time. This is saying, right? Um, I'm not getting on anti Toturi there, but like there's distinguished. So, but anyway, like that sort of thing has fueled this concept where you want to see your clan do well in the storyline, because in the old CCG it also reflected back onto the cards too. They would have game effects, in the uh, Race for the Throne storyline arc, where they were basically seeing who would become emperor, would what clan the emperor or empress would be from, and the dragon ended up winning the gigantic mega game that was played over tournaments and everything. Everybody contributed, and Dragon won, and Dragon Ueko, the first, became Empress of Rokugan. And in the game, the Dragon Clan started with Imperial Favor as a mechanic. So I don't know if that's going to be happening here, but that's kind of the where this sort of thing came from. And it also, when the role-playing books came out for the tabletop RPG, as well as people started playing in the live-action games, there was these LARPs that were going on during conventions. It became a big deal. People got involved in the role-playing game, and because it expanded upon these clans in a lot of ways that you couldn't do in the fictions, like what their cultures was, like little tiny things, they became important. This a lot of where I learned a lot of my storyline was the RPG books, the early RPG books. Um, Not only because they broke down the Day of Thunder storyline really well for me, but also because they went into these things. There was these passages in the back of the book about each personality, and my favorite personality right from the start was Matsugohai because of the art. Because he's a freaking lion with a trident. That's awesome. And then in the fluff of the book, they had his bio. This is what he's about. And there's a lot of characters that I learned about uh, during this time. While reading these books, that I became very passionate for and identified with it even to a degree. That I really became excited about. And it's also like people would gravitate towards the play styles generally, and they want to play these certain types of decks. So typically in L5R community, people have the concept that your decks that clan loyalty represents what you play in a tournament and most of the time in casual play. Like when you sit down, you're the line player or you're the scorpion player, at your local meta or your local group. And when you go to a tournament, you play your clan, right? And this is not all everybody ubiquitously. There are a fair amount, a good number of people who don't do clan loyalty, who just play what they want to play. Right, and there's no begrudging that at all. I'm just saying that when people think of clan loyalty, that's what they think about. So that's what it is. Now, I have the assertion that's great and it's good for the game, and I think most L5R players would agree with this. I don't know, but it's good for the game because to me, it's always created a sense of investment beyond just playing a game. Like I play games of these natures, like card games or role playing games, because I like socializing with people. It's a great way to meet people in a lot of cases, and I think it's a testament to a game when you can be in a room full of people that in your normal life you would have nothing to do with, right? You have nothing in common with any of these people pretty much, but you're all great friends, right? And not only that, but you're all going there to to engage with this thing in a way that is not just simply sitting down and playing a card game or going and winning a tournament or trying to win a tournament, right? Yes, there's the competitiveness. Clan competitiveness certainly exists. Like Lion players want to dominate the meta or what. I'm not saying that there's any particular. I can't come up with a name off the top of my head, but there is that investment for the competitiveness that clan loyalty does feed into. That when the Scorpions players are in the meta that I've seen weren't doing so well, they all got together and they group thought their way. They sat there and they thought of the ways to make their clan better in the meta, right? And the card game, right, as far as winning. But to me, it's more about creating these events that are just more than playing a card game, that where people can go and they can walk away going, that was awesome. Even if they're at the bottom of the table, but also like if they want to go and cosplay or do poetry contests, like L5R in the old card game had these honor contests, right? You would have your normal card tournament, right? And then you would have this honor contest, and they range from anything from writing haiku to cosplay to music. I think I heard of one where they had people go up there and actually perform something. Maybe I don't know, like I could be misremembering things, but like they would have these alternative contests where people would go and get involved, or LARPs. They would have LARPs. While the tournament was going on, they would have your winter court or whatever at bigger events or cons. And then they also have things like a Gen Con. If you're going to Gen Con, there's clan dinners. I've never been to one. I've never been to a Gen Con, but these the entire clan gets together and has dinner and they socialize as a community, which I think is really good because most card games and most games don't generally offer that. That's what L5R offers. That is what L5R is to people. It's more than a card game. It's kind of an experience. It's with a card game, with a pretty awesome card game. So, but also it's good because it clan loyalty. People had top of clan prices in tournaments, and that fed into that sort of idea that we would find out who was the best lion player, who was the best mantis player, who was the best scorpion player, and that we give prizes out for them. I don't know if the storyline kits will have the prize support will be there for top of clan. I fully expect it to be there though. Like, I mean, I would be surprised if organizers didn't do some sort of top of clan, even if it was come up with something themselves. It's definitely one of the things I think that made tournaments amazing. It was like I always told people when they go to tournaments, he's like, you can go to tournament not win and still win, and that's not in a bad way. I mean, like everybody came home from the tournament, right? The event, if feeling accomplished in some way. whether that be winning the entire shebang, to top of clan prizes, to middle of the road, or whatever. You have these other sort of associated prizes at events, and clan loyalty fed into that a lot. Is the idea that you have an investment into your clan, right? Um, it also is a great way to teach new players. It's great because when you're sitting down with a particular play style with other card games, you may not have access to other players, or you don't typically. So it's like, okay, if I play Control, right, and I sit down, I'm a new player, I want to learn how to play Control, play Scorpion, for instance. I'll have another Scorpion player show me. It's like, oh, this is what you do. This is how you can learn from me. And there's forums where you can go on and get tips and have other people help you out with the decks because they've invested interest in you doing well in the tournaments, right? If you are getting into the game and you're a new player but you're good at card games, they help you out with the card game, then you go and win a tournament, they just won. Right. I use Scorpion a lot because Scorpion have a very tight knit community, very large and tight knit community. Not that others do too. I just feel like they're the ones I always think about when I think of the large communities out there. But there's also online communities that help you, with the game and with getting to events and those kind of things. Your clanmates are kind of there to help you out. It's kind of a support network of people that you can initially meet, even though you may, meet other people. Like after a while, you get to know like pretty much everybody. Hopefully in your local meta or these tournaments, you get to know a lot of people, regardless of their clan. But initially, it gives you somebody to reach out to for help when you're a new player. So there are some bad things about clan loyalty, and let's try to go over these without being too contentious. So bitching is one of the bad things about clan. There are not all clans are equal at all times in the card game. Sometimes a clan or clans have do very poorly because of design, right? Because something's overpowered, or because they're not seeing the right tools, right? Or maybe they're designed for their like the designer is trying to shove a play style, like a theme that the community is not really engaged with. Um, Using the Scorpion reference, that was one of the cases that there was a point where all the Scorpion players played defensive Dishonor. They played control game, a tight control game. They liked that from the previous arc, Samurai arc and Celestial. They were like, where's defensive Dishonor? And they kept on getting a lot of military cards, and they were like, why are you giving us military? And where's our Dishonor? There was a miscommunication there. I don't know exactly why or what. There's no judgment on that part, but you know, that led to a lot of complaining, and I've been victim of it. I've been done it too. When there's been points, especially when I went 4 years basically without a stronghold, or at least an honorable stronghold in which I can use my guys. You'll hear me bitch about that all the time. And clan loyalty feeds into that. You get this investment into the clan, and then your clan starts doing poorly because what you view is a very arbitrary decision. Even though it's design, some of those things happen during design, or sometimes in design you want some things to not be dominant at other points. There's a sort of everybody gets their limelight, sort of philosophy where things will rise and fall, and that's not going to change with the LCG, right? LCG, will be different in a lot of ways, but there will be clans that will be dominant at one time, and other clans that won't. And that sense of investment, right, leads to a lot of complaining. Either rightfully or wrongfully, it just does. And so with that, it creates kind of a toxic environment a little bit, especially online, because people love complaining online. Hey, I guess it's what it's for, right? So that's one of the negative things. One of the other negative things is taking clan rivalries, taking basically your loyalty a little farther than it needs to be. I joke with like Crane players, for instance, in my local group, when they sit down across from me. I'm like Death of the Crane, because I'm a Lion Clan player. We have this feud, this vendetta, but it's a joke, right? There's an understanding there that I'm not really being serious. Some people take it pretty far though. I've seen some people like just downright like mistreat a person because of what clan they decided to play. Especially, if that person's a new person, that's pretty. There's no excuse for you being a jackass. And there is a point. This is a fictional game, and you are not role playing. You may go and do LARP and role play. Go ahead and act in character. Go ahead and act that way in character if that's what you want to do. In a role playing game. But yeah, there's no excuse for being a jackass. So, and some people just take it a little farther than they need to, right? Uh, the other one of the negative things, one of the worst negative things, and I think one of the negative things that I think we need to be a little bit more conscious of going forward into this new game is skewing perspectives for newer players about other clans and clan loyalty, right? Or clan loyalty, right? So if I play Lion and a new player comes to me and goes, "Oh, tell me about these different clans," I'm not going to go and tell them, "Well, cranes suck," because they do, right? Because they don't. They don't suck. They're a perfectly valid clan. They may not be my favorite clan, right? Which they're not. They're middle of the road. I like crane. I don't dislike them actively as a mechanical standpoint, but the crane, and the crane. So you should present each clan in its best light, right? Is what I'm saying. You shouldn't just because your fictional clan faction doesn't like another faction, right? Or even if you don't like the mechanics of that clan, you shouldn't misrepresent that clan, right? You should basically, it's like, okay, this is what this clan does, because you don't necessarily play the same way that he does, right? He'll, let him make his own decision, or him, or he or she, I should say, let them make their own decisions, and don't necessarily try skewing the perspective. That just turns people off once they realize, because sooner or later they'll realize, or they'll be like, hey, this faction's actually pretty awesome. I love the crane. I love defensive dishonor or whatever, or defensive honor rockets or whatever. You know what I mean? And then they'll look at you and be like, oh, whatever. And not only that, but it'll turn people off from clan loyalty. They'll be like, oh, I just don't want to be loyal to a clan if that's what it means, right? You're giving this perspective about clan loyalty, one of the cooler parts of the game, cooler aspects of the game. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we need to be aware of what we're presenting to new players and not to feed them our own biases, and let them approach the game from a fresh perspective and and come into the game on their own terms. So you can, not only will the community be better for it, but if it's in your local meta, you'll be better for it. Now you have a crane player or a scorpion player or whatever. Even if it's another one on top of a dozen, it doesn't matter. Your game has just gotten better because that person's there, right? So clicks is the last thing that I would like to point out, and this is one of the things us old L5R players need to be aware of is that there's a sense of entitlement and ownership for a rightful reason. I mean, we've played this game for a long time. We have a lot of invested energy into it, and in a lot of ways, we're coming in and we're just picking up the old community that we left off with, right? But there's going to be a lot of new players, or there's let me say that everybody's going to be a new player to this game. It's a new storyline. It's a entirely new game design, right? Even though it has similar things to the old game, and there's a lot to the old game that they're trying to keep for nostalgia's sake. It's a new game. So clan loyalty and clicks, clan loyalty tends to feed clicks. If you have and clicks form for different reasons other than clan loyalty. But clan loyalty in this game, if oh well, I'm already used to rapporting with these other Scorpion players, right? So this new Scorpion player comes in, he doesn't want to do defensive dishonor. I'm not saying defensive dishonor is the way to go or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. I hope. Um, this new strategy. I want to, hey, I want to try honor rocketing with Scorpion. I mean, that could be possible in this game. Who knows, right? Those clicks and those sort of set-in mentalities, right? We need to be aware of, especially with a clan focus, because again, it reflects badly on not just the entire community, but in the end, it kind of hurts you, because you don't expand your group. You don't have these diverse and huge game. We won't all want this game to be successful, I would think, and that means being open-minded and not and knowing when to check your clan loyalty, as it were, at the door, um, and be open-minded to newcomers into your clan as well as other clans. So. Okay, so loyalty in the new L5R. A lot of people have been asking about how clan loyalty will fit into L5R. I think they have the best interest. They've been pushing clan loyalty. The FFG is they understand that it's important to the game, and they want to definitely push that. Now, a lot of that is going to be dependent upon how they implement storyline, right? And I think, at least in my personal opinion, I think that storyline, how they engage with their storyline and storyline prizes will dictate a lot of this. But I think that there's a couple things that are opportunities, I should say, going into this on how clan loyalty can get better and how it can change with this kind of expansion of the community, right? That exists currently. So clan loyalty, I think in the new game will be a spectrum, to to use a joke. So it's clan loyalty is going to because people are going to be getting this as a whole box. They're going to be receiving all 7 factions at once. They're going to be able to experiment a lot, right? And this is good for a number of reasons. One is it'll give people a taste, even if they don't particularly play that faction, with different playstyles, right? They'll be encouraged to play different playstyles and that gives them a broader grasp on the game mechanics, right? When I went to tournaments, I typically had, even though I played Lion, and that I always played Lion at tournaments, I always had a deck for each clan, at least one deck for each clan built, because I needed to understand those clans, right? And I think people would be incentivized to do that, right? And that means that like clan at your whether it's at your casual nights or the tournaments will be a little bit more fluid. People might show up, your Lion players might show up with a Dragon deck, because I'm thinking about Dragon as an ult, because Dragon look really strong, and they look pretty awesome. But like you're gonna see at your I think it's gonna be more at the casual nights, clan loyalty, because depending on how they implement the storyline, but they're definitely going to implement some things, so the bigger storylines, I think people are going to be incentivized to play their clan a lot more. I would be surprised if they kind of went with a narrow winner takes all type of situation, at least at the big Kotais and the big national tournaments and things like that. Store championships, because they're going to have those, are going to be who knows what they're going to do with those. So at some level, I think there's going to be a breakdown where you're going to have people are going to be fluid up to a point, and then they're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to go play my clan now, right, at this event, or I won't, because that's obviously an option. I think because of the clan loyalty, though, you're going to see a stronger meta than other LCGs. So let's say I'm going to state that 70% of a meta is made up of good cards, like strong cards, the best choices in this game. This card is just out and out better, right, than others, and that feeds into this deck, which becomes this better, quote unquote, better deck, right? But with the multiple win conditions, with all the different mechanics that they're putting in that give you agency, right? I think that will be the power level between overpowered it's in a lot of ways putting a check on overpowered cards. I'm not saying that they're going to not be overpowered cards. There certainly is, but but you have ways in the mechanics, in the bread and butter baked into the game, that have the ability to play around like some of the power levels. They give you options, right? But going back to original, like 70% of a meta is made up of good cards. 30%, in my belief, is made up of psychology, right? What are people going to take? People are going to take the strongest deck, right? Well, in this game, that's not necessarily true. I think psychology, clan loyalty as a part of the psychology is important in a meta because people will have other interests other than maybe winning. If there's a top of the clan prize, or maybe if there's a prize for just showing up in the most scorpions that show up get some sort of storyline effect. The most lions get the most effect. For participating gives you some sort of prize. That completely throws off the meta, right? Because now you got to look at, okay, what kind of incentives are they giving out for these? Are there more unicorn players, right? That was a big deal in one Kotai that I went to, right? We all expected. I can't remember what the dominant deck of the day was. Scorpion military deck, and everybody took that. And a bunch of unicorns showed up and dark horsed it. Like, I mean, because unicorn was pretty strong. They weren't like, I wouldn't say they were the best deck, but they were strong because there was a lot of unicorn players who just showed up and trounced people. Keep the and they ended up winning the tournament because of that. So decks, the psychology part, I think will play a stronger force and will make the meta stronger than the LCGs because the other LCGs have been dominated purely, mostly by the good decks. Like I speak of Netrunner in particular, but also Game of Thrones. I think not knowing the full detail, but Lannister, from what I understand, was really uh, strong in the Game of Thrones meta when the game relaunched, the 2.0 came out. The deck, the like strong decks in those things determine everything, and deck diversity goes down because of that, right? Because people don't have an attachment to playing, Wayland, one of the factions from Netrunner, or they don't, particularly, it's like, okay, well, I could play Anarchs, or I could play, which I really love and are dominant, but I really love Shaper, and I really want to take my Exile deck, which is actually probably a bad reference, but I really want to take a Shaper. That doesn't really come into play in those other LCGs. And this it will, depending on, again, power level. But I think that will be different in this too because of the nature of the design, right? So, like I said, you could come in, your incentives, the way you play, can all dictate who brings what, and that will change what decks I think you'll see, quote unquote, are the best. Uh, if they make storyline, they incentivize storyline in a certain way, right? They will see those positive effects of that. I'm certain, right? We'll see more diversity in the meta, but they have the 20 years essentially of learning, right, from experiments. So AEG, and before that it was Wizards, and then before that it was FRPG, which is basically AEG. Um, had it like ran this huge storyline, and they made a lot of mess ups, but they also did a lot of good. There was good and bad, and they have that 20 years of experience to look back on, to really look at the incentives, how they affected people, and they have. I'm certain they're in contact, or they're having a contact with at least the people who own the game. John Zinser. I think they know. I think Steve Horvath and John Zinser know each other or something, right? So they've undoubtedly had conversations, many long conversations about how to interact with the storyline, what the perspectives of the people who ran it, and not only that, but had their own conversations internally about what are the problems, what are the pluses and minuses, and they're really going after this. And that from everything that they've told us, they kind of, I don't want to say they recognize the negative, but they definitely recognize that investment into the engagement is something that is necessary for the game. So, but it's going to be done differently, right? Which says to me that they recognize that there is something without absolutely stating it. They want to do it in their own particular way for their own particular reasons with their own particular effects. So, final thoughts for people: don't be don't be a dick. Will Wheaton's rule about clan loyalty. Getting people into your clan is awesome. If people choose another clan, let them choose another clan. If they don't want to do clan loyalty, don't bother them about it. You know, respect people make their own choices, right? So if people are clan loyal, and go in and be like, yeah, cool, let's see if we can make your deck the best we can or whatever. If they aren't, then go for it. Hey, that's fine. You know, like it's all about having fun with the game and having, and enjoying the community. So not everybody's going to be into it. But for those people who aren't a part of it, recognize it's a valuable part of the game and that's necessary. And try not to belittle, like, if you're getting into the game from like a highly competitive game like Magic or something, and you go clan loyalty, why would I be loyal to blue? You know, don't make fun of clan loyalty, please, because it's a very important part of this game. It is, what makes this game better than other games. And you may not agree with it, and be like, oh, why would you ever take something that was weaker because you like it? Like, why wouldn't you take the best deck? Well, because there's other reasons, to go to an event other than winning. And L5R, at least I would hope that they continue to support it. But L5R like definitely supports that sort of mentality. When you go to an event, there's other things other than just winning, right? And understand your bias, right, when explaining to new players, and understand, where to check loyalty. Don't take it too extreme. It's not life, dude. Seriously. Um, so that's all for those who are watching the stream. We're going to do the post show here in a minute, but for those who are watching this on recording, thanks for watching. You can visit my channel, L5R Destiny Casts, and please like or sub the video. You can also find us on Facebook at Destiny Has No Secrets, and or you can Facebook me at L5R Destiny Casts. We can also receive your email, queries and comments at L5RDestinyCast@gmail.com. So thanks for watching, and see you next week. So